Debating tonight, Alka Acharya, former member of the National Security Advisory Board. She's a China expert. We are not discussing only China tonight. However, Alka, we're looking at the full foreign policy ambit. Congress is fielding Tom Vadakkan. The JDU's Pavan Kumar Verma, former ace diplomat. In fact, I still call him one. Maroof Raza, Strategic Affairs editor of Times Now. Maroof, welcome. Rakesh Sood, former diplomat, doesn't mince his words. Don't do that tonight, sir, either. And Sheshadri Chari, completing our panel, member of the National Executive and Convenor of the Foreign Affairs Cell of the BJP. Gentlemen, let's start the debate tonight. And my first question goes to either Tom or Pavan Verma or anyone else on the panel who feels they are critical of what the Modi government has achieved. And my question is simple. Maybe, Pavan Verma, you want to take it first. You know, if somebody does something great, then I should appreciate it. If somebody makes substantial achievements in the foreign policy front, step back from your myopic foreign political lens, Pavan Verma, and appreciate it. Step forward and say something was done which was not done by 10 years of our government, Tom Vadakkan. Because if you don't, if you're constantly in this critical mode, and this is a little more serious than the food park project, by the way, Tom Vadakkan, then people will say you're constantly carping. Do you want to be known as a party that carps all the time, that cribs all the time, Tom Vadakkan? And this is entirely in the context of the China visit and the achievements of the Modi government on the foreign policy front. Who wants to go first? Does Tom or Pavan Verma? Who goes first? The choice is yours.
I can go first.
Take your pick. Pavan Verma goes first. Go ahead.
Like.
Go ahead. And after
first
that,
of all, Arnab, thank you. Thank you for your adjective of myopic, which I hotly contest. Let me say that we wish the Prime Minister well on this path-breaking visit to China. We hope that he will achieve, as you have put it, what 10 years of previous governments could not. While he is on foreign territory, this is not the time for any critical assessment. My expectation from the visit is something that in 30 seconds I can lay down before you and we can discuss it. Firstly, Arnab, I believe in this visit there should be at least the foundations laid for greater progress on the border dispute. Since 1959, China has solved 17 border disputes with other countries, including 15 in which it's given major concessions on land. The dispute with India is lingering, and I believe somewhere that China uses this lingering dispute to further its policy of engagement with India with containment and encirclement, using the boundary as a leverage. Secondly, I hope there is progress on Arunachal Pradesh. When they announced staple visas, I believe our response should have been not so pusillanimous. We should have said we will give staple visas to Tibetan citizens. Thirdly, on Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, the investments being made by China in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and the 46 billion Sino-Pakistan economic corridor that China is building, which will go through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, is a matter of deep concern to India. It should be part of the discussions. Equally, what China and Pakistan are doing in Afghanistan needs to be thoroughly discussed so that the attempt is not to isolate India. And in this context, I want to mention that the Maritime Silk Corridor and the Silk Route which China is resuscitating is, in my view, appearing to be an euphemism for once again the encirclement of India, and I believe it should be frankly discussed. Fourthly, the South China Sea, where in China, China
that's a long opening remark.
10 seconds more. Where
that's a very long opening remark.
Take 10 seconds more.
Sir, that's
I'll
a speech.
Take 10 seconds
that's a
more
speech
if you
you're
don't
making
disturb
now.
me. South China Sea, sir. South China Sea, we should put our stand very firmly. POK they can invest, but we cannot even foray in the South China Sea. Lastly, sir, the trade asymmetry. I think that China is using non-tariff barriers for preventing our exports into China. And lastly, sir, Brahmaputra, the dams they are building, water is a key issue. 30% of our water supplies in India come from Tibet. We need to talk about
Mr.
them.
Verma, I now have to interject.
Makes incremental progress on that.
Mr. Verma.
No, sir, that's what I want to say.
Mr. Verma.
I'll keep quiet.
That's all right. That's all right. Now I assume. Why did Mr. Pavan Verma dodge my question? there can be only two reasons. A, he does
didn't
not
dodge
want
it.
to acknowledge the good work
I
done by
didn't
the
dodge
Modi
it.
government. Or he does not want to
Arnab, you can't have this abrupt, you cannot have this arbitrary interpretation.
No, 1 second. So let me tell you why. Because my
I
question was,
I
Pavan
praise
Verma,
the Prime Minister,
whether
I
you will
wished him
be,
well.
whether I asked Mr. Verma, I know you're a bright and eloquent man, but sometimes the brightest and most eloquent of men can occasionally go a little wrong. And I think that error of judgment in your part in reading my question, very precise, Maroof. And my question tonight was what? My question was whether the opposition will stop carping about the Modi government in terms of foreign policy. I now invite, and by the way, I'm not going to go around inviting, I know there are diplomats around the table tonight, but I'm not inviting those. Feel free to come into the debate. Sheshadri Chari, why do you think Pavan Verma was less than generous in giving any marks to your government on the foreign policy front?
That's your interpretation. I was very generous. I just raised some issues.
It was my question, no interpretation, sir. A question heard loud and clear tonight. Sheshadri Chari.
Arnab, for once, I know I am not being politically very correct and even journalistically very correct today. I think I am in total agreement with what Mr. Pavan Verma has just said. He is a very seasoned diplomat. I don't want to say that Mr. Pavan Verma should now roll the red carpet for the Prime Minister of India. Maybe his political affiliations may not allow that. But what Mr. Pavan Verma has said now is in perfectly order with what the Modi government is now trying to achieve. Whether all this could have been done in the last 10 years or not, only history can say. But I think what Mr. Pavan Verma has said is all very correct, and the Prime Minister, to put the record straight, has raised all these issues. As far as the POK issue is concerned, we have raised it. The Prime Minister has raised the issue of staple visa. He has raised the issue of border issue. And of course, the foundation for solving the border issue was first laid when Atal Bihari Vajpayee as Prime Minister of India went to China. And now it was followed up during the UPA government. But again, the changing situation, political and social situation and economic situation in China, and the compulsions that Beijing is also facing, and also the changes that they have made to their own foreign policy, have all put together and given Narendra Modi a golden opportunity to take the subject forward, and that is exactly what Narendra Modi is doing. So I think the debate is going well. I think in the final analysis, all the political parties, when the Prime Minister returns to India, all the political parties will have an opportunity to sit together and discuss India's China policy. And I am sure we can make an assessment, a balance sheet of what we have given, what we have achieved, what we have not done, and what needs to be done further. I think the debate should be on those lines.
Sheshadri Chari,
I am very glad that Pavan Verma has put forward a very good point.
Mr. Sheshadri Chari, you're very optimistic. I appreciate your optimism. Your foreign policy has been called non-existent, confusing, and full of theatre by the opposition in the past. So I don't know why you're expecting them to do you a good turn tonight. Tom Vadakkan, the question can contrast is that of pusillanimity. And Mr. Sood, Maroof Raza, and Alka, feel free to come in. As I said, I am not taking, turns on the program between the different panelists. Now, Tom Vadakkan. The contrast is very clear. The contrast is between the tough approach of the Modi government and the pusillanimity of your government. The no-nonsense approach of the Modi government, the confusing approach of the previous government, which went on to barter national security on multiple occasions, even with respect to China. I'm sure you're not going to ask me for examples because it may end up embarrassing you, Mr. Tom Vadakkan, a bit if I do tonight. But is that contrast really unfair?
Arnab Goswami, my friend, I refuse to take the bait today. Today the Prime Minister is on foreign soil. Expectations are high. Like Sheshadri Acharya ji said, there are expectations which he says has been met. Welcome if they are being met. But yes, the opposition has right to have expectation. Mr. Verma also talked about expectation. We are not going to declare war on your live show.
Tom Vadakkan, you see, Mr. Vadakkan, you don't have to take any bait, but I'll ask you a question anyway. And I don't understand why you're looking so much on the defensive. I don't know. What's
we are
wrong
not
with
on
you?
the defensive.
Have you
This is
realized that you
about
made making
a
mistakes
prime
for the last
minister-
1 year? Okay.
a prime
Okay, let's see if
minister
I can
on
at least get a
foreign
comment
soil.
from you tonight. Yeah, the Prime Minister is on
Prime
foreign soil.
Minister
And by
on
the way, are you the
foreign
same
soil.
party which 3 weeks back said, are you the same person who came on my program 3 weeks back and said, I'm going to follow the Prime Minister wherever he goes on foreign soil and take him on foreign soil? What happened to you? You've been realizing a lot of mistakes, haven't you? Since you messed up on the food park fight. Anyway, Tom
Arnab, I'm
Vadakkan,
not
let's
taking
go on
your
to the
bait
fundamental
again.
questions
I'm
tonight.
not taking your bait again.
There are no
It
baits.
was a
I only
symbolic
reminded you of your
message
comments.
for the Prime Minister.
There are no
not to utter
baits. You
things
want,
against the
Mr.
opposition.
Vadakkan.
That was a symbolic
Mr. Vadakkan,
message.
there are no
Arnab,
baits.
You understand it as I
There
do,
are no baits,
that
Mr.
we settle
Vadakkan.
symbolically.
Mr.
We
Vadakkan,
settle
your-
our problems within
Mr.
the country.
Vadakkan.
We don't go out to sort out our problems. This is not
Mr.
a public
Vadakkan.
rally, Arnab. This is about foreign
Mr.
policy.
Vadakkan,
This is about
and the
India.
Sure it is. Can I ask you a foreign policy question if you allow me? And Maroof, you want to come into this, please feel free to. But let me see tonight whether Tom Vadakkan will answer my question. The other option is that you can carry on for 30 more minutes, Mr. Vadakkan. Answer no question, look even more defensive. Your tone, tenor and the content of what you're saying makes you look terribly on the back foot tonight, Mr. Vadakkan. If that's a choice you want to make tonight, people
I'm
will
on the
read
front
motive
foot,
and
Arnab.
meaning
I'm on
behind
the
it.
front foot.
Mr.
But
Vadakkan, the
this is
question
about
to you
our
tonight is
country.
this.
This is
The
about the
question to you
Prime
tonight is
Minister's
this.
outside.
The question is, Mr. Vadakkan, the question to you tonight is, please care to listen. Will you concede that the Narendra Modi government sent out a very tough signal to China by summoning its envoy on the eve of the visit, raising a strong objection against China's planned $46 million economic corridor with Pakistan? Will you concede that by doing so, the Narendra Modi government sent the kind of message that you never did? That it is not willing to compromise its interests, even if it means ruffling Chinese feathers ahead of a diplomatic visit. Answer the question.
What were the incursions happening?
I am not here to answer questions. I am here to ask them. Answer my question.
When the Chinese head was in this country, you answer this question, Arnab Goswami. What was the Prime Minister doing when the incursions
You ask
were
Mr.
happening in this
Sheshadri
country?
Chari,
When
if you
the
are-
Chinese
if you-
VIP was here, what did the Prime Minister do?
You didn't answer my question. I let Sheshadri Chari answer that. Why should I? He represents the BJP. Let him answer you tonight. But see how you dodge the question. See how
No, I didn't. I
see how
asked
you
a
dodge the
counter
question.
question. I asked a counter question.
Will you concede? I ask another question. Maroof, Sheshadri Chari, you want to answer that? You want to answer that? I have a second question for Tom Vadakkan.
Can I come in?
No. See,
I can get
Yes.
him out of the shell he's put
Arnab,
himself in.
can I answer that in a few other points?
See, China's policy,
No, Sheshadri Chari responding
China's
after that,
conduct
Maroof.
of foreign policy we should understand. And China's conduct of foreign policy is not something Greek and Latin to us. All the former prime ministers right from 1962 to 2013, 2014 have understood it. The Foreign Office in India has understood it, and the rest of the world has also been able to decipher it. What basically China does is carry a big stick and at the same time speak softly. The policy which they say is pinch the child and rock the cradle. So on the one side, they send when the president of China is in town, in here, he is talking to Prime Minister. At the same time, there is something
Mr.
happening
Chari,
in the
why are
border.
you avoiding the
And
question
this
Tom
issue was
Vadakkan put at
raised
you?
with the
Why are you
president of
asking-
China during his visit to India, and on his way back, he did give clarification. And after he reached Beijing, there are reports that he even pulled
I
up
hope
the
you are
army
happy, Tom,
brass.
with the answer.
But of course, in China, the president of China is also the chief of the army, and he is also the chief of the party. That is the secretary general of the party. The secretary general of the Communist Party of China. He is a very strong man. So he is.
I hope you are happy with that, Tom.
So it is
I hope
not
you are
that
happy
he
with
does
that,
not
and I
know
hope you'll
about
take a
it.
few
And
more
this
questions
issue
in the
was
process.
raised. This issue was raised.
Okay,
No,
I
that
hope you're
doesn't
happy with
answer
that,
the question
Tom.
completely.
And I hope
when
you now
you
take a
talk
few
about
questions.
when you talk about foreign, I'm not critical on the Prime Minister. I'm only asking questions. I'm only asking, worried that he brings a package back to us. I'm worried that the borders are safe. I'm worried that we are safe and sound. I accept economic reforms, all that he has talked about. But yes, as a citizen, as a party person, I'm only asking questions. Where are we going from here? Are we safe? Are our borders safe? Is the Brahmaputra
that's what people
situation that has emerged? Then there is
That's what
investment of 46
That's
crores.
what people do very often.
46 billion to
Mr.
Pakistan.
Vadakkan.
Are we safe? Are
Mr.
we safe
Vadakkan.
there? These are worries, Arnab. These are worries,
Mr. Vadakkan,
Arnab, which the people are
Mr.
asking.
Vadakkan,
They're
and
asking
even
you
Pavan
to
Verma
your
will
channel.
acknowledge tonight that this is the tone and tenor. This is the tone and tenor of those who have lost the debate right at the start, Tom Vadakkan, because when you lose the debate at the start, you want to ask questions for the rest of the debate.
You can't
You don't
be
have any
judge and
answers to
jury,
give.
Arnab.
Maroof Raza.
You have to leave it to the people to call
I'm
it.
not.
The
I'm
jury
asking
is
questions
out,
and making
Arnab.
observations.
The jury
Please don't
has
say
to
that.
decide. The jury is out. Let's take a call on that.
By the
Mr.
way, the
Vadakkan,
jury is
Mr.
waiting to see
Vadakkan,
whether you
Mr.
will answer,
Vadakkan, sir.
whether you will answer, Tom Vadakkan, that Narendra Modi's references to Chinese expansionism during his visit to China and his joint statement with the US, which spoke of a maritime security in the South China Sea, reflected a tougher approach towards our regional rival, which you in your 10 years of UPA 1, UPA 2 and UPA 3, which thankfully never happened, could never achieve. The fact of the matter is, Tom Vadakkan, you are embarrassed
Arnab,
tonight
tough
because
talking is
Manmohan Singh
okay,
did not
but
even
what are the
visit Sri Lanka
results
or
in ground
Nepal
zero?
on a
What are the
bilateral visit
results
during his
in ground
tenure,
zero?
even as China was moving swiftly to build a strategic presence in both those countries. This government, in contrast, has moved closer to Nepal and Sri Lanka by visiting those countries in what is seen as an attempt to counter the Chinese influence. Manmohan Singh never did that. They never touched those issues. So there's a study in contrast. Maroof wants to come into the debate. Maroof.
Absolutely. Arnab, I just, with all the distinguished panelists, a lot of
There are no
interesting
answers
points
from
have been
Tom
made,
tonight.
but I'm trying to give a reality check to that. First point, Mr. Vadakkan's, what Mr. Vadakkan just referred to is, are our borders safe? Are we safe as citizens? We are, sir, despite the fact that in your 10-year UPA regime, as the CAG report has just brought out,
Precisely.
our armed forces stock of war fighting reserves of ammunition had been depleted to levels which we have not known in recent memory. But even then, our armed forces are good men. They are going to fight to the last man, last round. We still are just about able to hold our front lines in the event of a two-front war for which we are still prepared.
You're that.
Having said that, let me give you a checklist. The checklist, sir, please hear me out. First, Mr. Modi has done a number of things right in foreign policy. I have criticism on one or two issues. The things that he's done right, he's kick-started the Indo-US relationship when there was complete exasperation in Washington in the last UPA 2 regime, with nothing moving in terms of any arrangement, whether the nuclear deal on which Mr. Manmohan Singh had put his political future at stake and taken a vote in the parliament, or on various other deals where there were promises made and nothing delivered. He moved things forward. Let's grant him that. Again, in the neighborhood, as Arnab has brought out, Mr. Modi visited countries, Nepal after 17 years an Indian Prime Minister visited. Sri Lanka after 26 years an Indian Prime Minister visited. Seychelles after 32 years an Indian Prime Minister visited those countries. These countries are part of China's string of pearls strategy to surround us. We need to get into good wicket with them to be able to respond to any eventuality in the long run. So Mr. Modi has done that right. Where I have a problem with Mr. Modi's government's foreign policy, he's got things right with France, he's got things right with Russia and Australia. Arnab's brought all that out. I think I have a problem with their lack of imagination in dealing with Pakistan. It's been one step forward, one step back, and then again 2 steps back. You call off the talks on a flimsy pretext, and then you say your foreign secretary, will only go to Pakistan for SARC-related visits. You allow the Hurriyat chiefs to talk to the Pakistan High Commissioner on other times when there are no talks taking place. I think that's a whole bunch of muddled hogwash. So we need to get our Pakistan strategy right. As far as the Prime Minister's visit, Mr. Pavan Verma has rightly brought out 6-7 points. The Prime Minister's visit in China, I think the expectations are high. I've been saying all through the day, Arnab, that the Prime Minister will address the security situation with China, because trade, even if it happens with China, cannot happen in isolation. Mr. Modi is on record some years ago to say that he cannot think of furthering trade relations with a country even like China when the security situation is a big question mark. The fact that Chinese troops intruded into Indian territory when President Xi was here, that is Xi's problem. His visit was in tatters. It wasn't something that Modi got it wrong, unless you're trying to suggest that Mr. Modi orchestrated the incursion by Chinese troops. That was an embarrassment for China, and I think he's gone and paid that back in a reciprocal visit to his hometown, done all the right things, visited the monastery, and for what Mr. Jaishankar has just said on television today, I think a lot of issues have been brought up, including the trust deficit, which does seriously exist between China and India. Now, whether it's the maritime issue, whether it's the trust deficit, whether it's Pakistan being brought up by China, that's all going to come out in the joint statement, and we'll have to wait and watch the space. But I think most importantly, Mr. Modi, who some people have cynically said when he makes his frequent visits to India, then he addresses problems of governance within India, otherwise he's a frequent flyer abroad. But let me tell you, India wants to play a global role. I would like India to play a global role. And India can play a global role if you are willing to be a frequent flying head of government. If you're not, you're going to sit around out here and make selective visits to Washington and a few other Western capitals, as Manmohan Singh did, then you're not going to enjoy the respect of your neighborhood, and others will eat into your space as the Chinese did. So I think we need to move forward in those areas. Having said that, foreign policy, Mr. Pavan Verma may not agree with me, Mr. Sood may not agree with me, but foreign policy is one area which is easy for prime ministers to move without much political opposition, as against trying to move on a whole lot of reforms at home, where exactly, I mean, we are seeing what the state of play in parliament is. So I think to that extent he is capitalizing on that, he is setting the foundations, and let us see if he can reap the benefits and he can energize the bureaucracy to deliver on the promises he makes. But quite clearly with China, we have to watch the space eventually to see what will emerge. China is not going to abandon its obsession with Pakistan to use it as a counter to us. So we've got to live with that strategic situation where we are faced with two nuclear neighbors.
I think Pavan wants to come back to the debate, and I think Sheshadri Chari needs to respond. And if Alka Acharya and Rakesh Sood want to come in at this stage, I'd like to bring them in. Who's responding here? Maroof, 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Pavan Verma. Yes, Mr. Verma.
Well, no, just one question to Maroof's presentation. Do you think that the incursion into Chumar during the President of China's visit to India was accidental, or something that he was unaware of, or something that we had anticipated?
No, Mr. Verma, from what I understand, and I had the privilege of hearing some information from the horse's mouth, is that it took the Chinese president by surprise. I think there was a certain rift between some military commanders, how they saw the relationship with India panning out, and how Mr. Xi's vision of relations with India is. And quite clearly, from what is on record in the printed media, those military commanders were removed and sacked.
Arnab,
I have some cynicism on this call, but never mind, we can agree to disagree.
Well, okay, fine. You let that pass. Sheshadri Chari wanted to come in. Sheshadri Chari, on the foreign policy issue, why have you made Pakistan your Achilles heel? Please respond to Maroof, sir.
Arnab, I'll just want to comment on what Maroof said. As far as China's intention and reasons for their incursions are concerned, we do not know the clear picture of what happened in 1962. So forget what happened in 2015. It's too early to say what happened in 2015, whether the President of China knew about it or not. I don't think the Chairman Mao also knew about what is happening in 62, and we are yet to decipher all that. So we will go into those details much later when we get more confirmation on all what is happening. But what is important is, I think while discussing China, Indo-China relations, and what China has done and what China has not done, what are the changes that have taken place within the Chinese establishment, we have to also take into consideration the fact that the kind of history, geography and chemistry that exists between India and Pakistan does not give any Prime Minister a blanket check to deal as far as these issues are concerned within about a short period of 1 year or 12 months.
Sir, the question, Mr. Chari, the question Maroof is asking you is
step by step.
That why has your foreign policy,
and we have very clearly,
you're choosing not to answer tonight. The question he's asking you is, why is your foreign policy approach on Pakistan characterized by confusion?
I have understood the question.
No, you need to answer. You are not answering the question, sir. You took a robust approach by calling off the foreign secretary level talks with Abdul Basit Mehta in August. Why have you toned down considerably?
All that I have to say is, we have successfully isolated Pakistan diplomatically in the international arena. And whatever we have
No,
to name
sir.
and shame Pakistan, we have done it.
don't think so. I
And
don't
we have
think
done it. And as the events
Absolutely
unfold,
not. Sorry.
we will be able to carry forward the Pakistan policy further. But as far as Indo-China relations are concerned, whatever Pakistan
Arnab,
is
if I may
doing
come in
in
at this point in
Afghanistan,
time.
whatever China is doing in POK, we have not left these things to anybody's
Sir, the
imagination.
fact is,
we have put
sir,
it
the
on
fact
the
is,
table.
I'm
We
sorry,
have
and I
put
get
it on the
Rakesh Sood, and I'm
table.
going to get him in because he's not coming in on his own. One second, sir, the fact is that like the UPA, like the UPA, one second, please, sir, one second. There are two participants who haven't spoken. Mr. Chari, like the UPA, you have softened your stance against Pakistan. Like the UPA, you have indulged in candy floss diplomacy by continuing to engage with Pakistan under the aegis of the SARC despite all the provocations. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, sir, you are UPA 3. You may not like to hear it, but as far as Pakistan is concerned, you are UPA 3. Rakesh Sood, please. Rakesh Sood and then Alka Acharya. Rakesh Sood.
This is not the view of the government.
Yes,
This is not the view
if
of
I may-
many of the
if
people
I
who
may
are
come in,
Certainly, I
do
don't
not
expect
think
it to be
that
the view of the government.
Pakistan
I don't think
Mr.
for a
Sood.
minute that Pakistan...
as far as the present dispensation
No,
is concerned,
Mr. Sood, please.
Yes, I do not think that Pakistan at this stage has been isolated at all. We have just seen a new arms package announced by the United States. We have seen the Chinese government announcing a $46 billion package. And we have seen for the first time Russian arms supplies coming to Pakistan. If that accounts for Pakistan's isolation, I'm afraid I really don't understand what isolation is. But to come back to the larger issue,
Mr. Sood,
I think the
Mr.
point
Sood,
here is
let me take up
that
the
yes,
point.
Prime
Let
Minister
me
Modi
intervene
has
for half a
certainly
second.
energized.
The point that
Prime
we are
Minister
saying,
Modi has certainly
the point that we are
energized
saying is,
foreign policy.
India is not
Prime
dealing
Minister
only with
Modi has
Pakistan.
certainly
Remember,
energized foreign policy
as far as
in
Indo-Pakistan
terms
relations are
of
concerned,
imparting a
we are
new
dealing
momentum.
with China, we are
One
dealing
by
with
one,
Russia,
one
we
by
are
one.
dealing with France, we are dealing with US, we are dealing with European Union.
Yes,
We are not
yes.
dealing vis-a-vis
I
Pakistan.
was only responding
Therefore,
to the fact
these
that
are all
Pakistan is not
collective dealings that
isolated.
we are doing, and therefore we
Yes,
have to
I was
carefully
responding to the
calibrate
fact
our
that Pakistan is not
policy,
isolated.
not a break, not
And
a
is
break
less
from what was
isolated
happening
today
so
than it
far,
has ever
but
been
at the
before.
same time, our response mechanism has to change, and that is exactly what is happening under this dispensation.
Sir, I cannot understand, and someone needs to tell us this, Mr. Chari.
I
Please
think we
understand the
need
question.
to give credit
What
to
Mr.
Prime
Sood is
Minister
telling
Modi.
you-
I disagree.
I think we need to give credit to Prime Minister Modi for having energized foreign policy. I think what we need
Precisely.
to give
He's
credit to Prime Minister Modi is that he has certainly taken the benefit of having had extended engagements and intensified our engagements both within the neighborhood and with the major powers in recent months. However, the outcome of it is something that we still have to understand and we still have to receive it. Pakistan clearly is a difficult issue because of Afghanistan and what is happening in Afghanistan. Even today, we saw in the news today that there was a guest house that was attacked where there were 4 Indians who were killed in that guest house. So as long as that continues, I do not think we are going to be able to see what is happening with what is going to happen with Pakistan. But nonetheless, with China, even if, let's understand one thing very clearly, and I think all the panelists would do well to reflect on it, even if we were able to solve our border dispute, it would still not resolve the issues given the Pakistan-China nexus on nuclear, missile and defense industry.
Absolutely.
And as long as that continues, I do not think we can have normal relations with China.
Well, at several points of time in the
Arnab, may I
past,
ask a question?
Alka Acharya has joined our debate and justified what the UPA government's position has been vis-a-vis China. Yes, Alka, I do see your hand go up there. Do you find the Modi government's approach far more robust, far more real, far more nationalistic, far more straightforward perhaps than the previous governments on China?
You know, if we take a slightly longer term perspective, what is quite clear to me is that the fundamental framework of India's policy to China has remained practically the same, I think, successive governments have upheld this fundamental approach of engaging with China, reserving the differences but not letting them fall by the wayside, establishing mechanisms to deal with the problem, the difficult issues, raising them repeatedly, and continuing to expand, deepen, diversify this very significant relationship of Asia in the 21st
Alka, I totally
century.
disagree with
now,
you.
Wait a bit. Let me complete. Now, what I am saying, there is a continuum.
You may want
if
that
you
to happen.
take, if
Alka,
you make a comparison,
Alka Acharya, there is
listen.
you must draw a distinction, Mr. Acharya,
of the
between
statements
what
that have
you
been
want
made
and what
in
is the
Parliament
reality.
by
Ms. Acharya,
if you examine,
I'm sure you can hear me.
If you examine
Ms.
the
Acharya.
statements that have been made by different
Ms.
leaders
Acharya,
at different points
don't
of
be
time,
theoretical on this
you will
one.
see that no, it's not theoretical. You take the statements
Don't
in
be
Parliament
theoretical.
and
Don't be so
this is
totally
not
and utterly theoretical, Ms. Acharya.
Arnab,
Be real.
Arnab, the problem
Ms. Acharya, don't be theoretical. You know can I tell you why I think you're being theoretical?
Arnab, the problem with wearing blinkers is that you fail to see the overall picture. Now, I'm trying to say
Ms.
that
Acharya,
if you take statements,
Ms. Acharya, that's I find that
if you
that's
take
a perfect
statements,
Ms. Acharya.
Ms.
Acharya, I'm sorry, but if you're going to take a theoretical approach, I'm going to have to prove you wrong on this one, and let me try and reason it out with you. Let me try and reason it out with you. Let me give you an example. You see, I won't talk theoretically with you. I'll give you an example if you care to listen, Ms. Acharya. Then we can discuss who's wearing blinkers on the program today.
Arnab,
one second, I'll give you an example and then we can debate this. Ms. Acharya, let's take the case of China. You want to see a continuum between what the previous government did and this one. Now let me give you an example. Modi's overtures to several countries in our own region marks a thorough and total contrast to Manmohan Singh, who chose one second, Miss Acharya, you need to hear me out. You need to hear me out and then please. You cannot not listen. Miss Acharya, I'm telling you, don't be theoretical tonight. We are talking in the real world. Miss Acharya,
first hear me out. You did not even let me complete my argument.
Miss Acharya, I can listen to Miss Acharya. This is not a Miss Acharya. What you're doing is delivering a lecture on political theory and not coming down to brass tacks.
Political theory, you had people giving presentations here, you had 5 minutes for everybody, and you don't even let me complete my point, and you then
Miss Acharya, I'll give you one example and then I'll give you 5 minutes if you want to respond to my question.
Let me give you the example.
The question is
because
this.
you just not even hear me out. I tried to tell you that if you look at the statements made by the government in power and the opposition in power, then, the opposition, then you will see that they are practically saying the same things, whether it is the NDA or the UPA. Now, that is one thing, and that is intended to establish the point that the framework of China's India's foreign policy.
Now, let me tell you, Ms. Acharya, Ms. Acharya, you've repeated the same point 20 times. It won't make a difference if you repeat it any more number of times. Let's be real, please. Let's expand the course of this debate. This dialogue is not between you and me, but I'll have to tell you one thing tonight. Ms. Acharya, please listen. There was a Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2013. There was a Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2013. Manmohan Singh was a government that was so utterly pusillanimous on the foreign policy front that Manmohan Singh was not able to muster the courage. The government who you used to support, by the way, Ms. Acharya, you were a great supporter of the Manmohan Singh government on foreign policy issues, especially China. Manmohan Singh was so scared, Tom Vadakkan, that he will upset China and he will upset at the same time domestic political constituencies in India, that he chose not to visit Sri Lanka for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Everyone knows. Just because the DMK said that, we'll be very upset if they go. You see, therefore, in the way this government looks at foreign policy, you should know, as someone who studies foreign policy, Ms. Alka Acharya, there's a huge difference, because when Manmohan Singh did not go to China, and Pavan Verma and Maroof will bear me out, China exploited this opportunity at India's expense, and our domestic politics ended up severely compromising our strategic considerations. I think that's a world of difference between the approach of the previous government and the approach of this one. I don't know how anyone can overlook that. Pavan Verma, Maroof Raza. Isn't that a fundamental point of difference there, Maroof?
No,
as far as delinking politics and foreign policy is concerned, Maroof.
Arnab, come in here to ask a question.
Arnab,
I want to make a point.
Arnab, I want to ask you a question. You spoke about Manmohan Singh. Staple visas.
Maroof and Tom, don't get upset. That is actually what your government did.
I think you need
now,
to
what
make
did your MOS See, Raiju, why was he missing in action? You talk about Manmohan Singh. Why was he not present in that meeting? Do you have an answer for that? Why was he missing in action? Why was this 56-chested Prime Minister? Was he hiding this Minister of State of Arunachal Pradesh? Answer that today. Arnab, this is a question.
Let Sheshadri Chari answer you. Let Mr. Chari answer you.
No, Arnab,
While
as
Mr.
far as
Chari
the
is
issue of
answering,
staple
may I ask
visa
him
is
a question
concerned,
also?
this government, like the earlier government also raised this issue, this government has also raised this issue, and we have also told China unequivocally that if you continue to treat the Arunachal Pradesh people, giving them staple visas, we will have to do the same thing as far as the Tibetans are concerned. We will also have to do the same thing as far as these people are concerned. Not only that, in the changing reality, we have also raised the issue of Tibet and also the human right violations there. But we have been very candid as far as these approaches are concerned. And as far as your Chogam issue is concerned, as far as the former Prime Minister's visit to Sri Lanka is concerned, that issue was raised by us. And
Sheshadri Chari,
none other than the then
Sheshadri Chari, I thought Sheshadri Chari,
none other
Mr.
than
Chari, how power
the
can
foreign
change you?
minister.
How power can change you, Mr. Chari?
None other than the then foreign minister, Mr. Salman Khurshid himself went all the way to Colombo, and from Colombo he said, I wish my Prime Minister was here. So I think we should raise the case there. Now that he is no longer the Prime Minister, Salman Khurshid is no longer the Foreign Minister, and the President of Sri Lanka has also changed. So this discourse on Sri Lanka has also been changed, and we are trying to regain the strategic space that we lost in the last 10 years.
Sheshadri Chari, I thought at least once. No, Maroof, Pavan Verma, just a small observation. I thought Sheshadri Chari at least once would respond to Alka Acharya and say, no, we are not UPA 3 in terms of foreign policy. Don't say this is all one continuum. But I find it very interesting
I don't agree
that he didn't.
I don't agree.
And I tell you why.
I don't agree.
Said that. Arnab,
I don't agree.
One second, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why you didn't, Sheshadri Chari. I'll tell you why you didn't, Sheshadri Chari. Don't worry, don't worry.
Acharya said that.
Mr. Chari,
Mr.
Chari,
let me put the record straight. Let me put the record straight. Dr. Acharya did not say the present NDA government is UPA 3. You said it twice. But if in case Dr. Acharya also feels, if she feels that this is UPA 3, I am sorry to tell her it is wrong.
But I did not say it. You see, the point is, Arnab, you don't let somebody finish.
She meant that. She was paying you a backhanded compliment. One second. Now, one second. If it is not UPA 3, I have two questions for, one second, Alka Acharya and Tom Vadakkan. I have two questions to Mr. Sheshadri Chari, who unfortunately is in a trap tonight. And I understand your trap,
No, not
Mr.
at all.
Chari.
Sorry.
I see.
Right? Your heart is that of a politician. One second.
You seem
One
to be
second.
in a trap.
Mr. Chari, I understand your position tonight. In your heart is a BJP politician. Right? But tonight you're wearing the clothes of a consummate diplomat. Let's ask you straight. Can you tell me tonight, everyone's watching the program, Mr. Chari, why did Amit Shah cancel his meeting with the Dalai Lama earlier this month? Tom Vadakkan, you think the strong-willed Mr. Chari of the BJP should answer that question? If Obama could have a meeting with the Dalai Lama despite Chinese protests, why did your party President Amit Shah cancel his meeting with the Dalai Lama earlier this month? Tell us why, if you are not UPA 3.
But who told you that this meeting was fixed in the first place?
Who told you it's all over, sir? Apparently there was a message which he got from the highest of officers.
But who told you this meeting was fixed?
He was supposed to meet.
There are a number of
Amit Shah was supposed to meet the Dalai Lama on the 2nd of May in Dharamshala. The meeting was cancelled at the last minute because it was felt it would send negative signals to the Chinese.
There are a number.
Come on, sir, you know it's true.
There are a number of meetings that are fixed between people which get cancelled at the last moment.
Absolutely
And for your kind information, I belong to the BJP. I look after the foreign policy. I am a member of the National Executive Committee.
Which is why I am asking you.
And I had, Mr. Arnab Goswami, I had a personal meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we discussed the issues, and I have conveyed
now you're coming to the point.
things to the Chinese
Now you're coming to the point.
powers. Therefore, it is not necessary that all these meetings and all these cancellations have to be put on the public domain, but we have done what we have to do.
But I am
We have
putting it
sent
on the
the right
public
kind
domain.
of signals. Yes, I am also putting it on the public domain. We have sent the right signgnals. We have sent the right signals to Beijing.
This is exactly the point that
We have done
Maroof
it.
made, Sheshadri Chari,
Arnab,
vis-a-vis
may I
Pakistan.
ask-
You see, Mr. Chari, I don't want to insinuate, but it appears that a section of Lutyens Delhi is now deciding the foreign policy of the BJP, which used to be independent sometime in the past, a few months back. Pavan Verma wants to come in. But Sheshadri Chari says tonight our foreign policy is not UPA3.
I don't think you are
Sir,
very
if you
right
actually
there.
want to make strong achievements in the foreign policy front, Maroof, don't you think, Maroof and Pavan Verma, if they really
No,
want
but
to
you
make
asked me
achievements
to
on the
speak.
foreign policy front, I will, Mr. Verma. I know you are dying to come in support of your new ally
wanted to
on
ask a
foreign policy, the
question.
BJP. But
But Arnab, again,
I want to ask.
you have now crossed all limits. I am asking a question to Mr. Chari. Is he
Pavan
my new
Verma
ally?
is a seasoned diplomat. He may be in a different party, but he is a seasoned
from the
diplomat.
beginning,
What
from the beginning
what
of
is
this
this
debate,
debate about?
from the
Is
beginning
it a
of this
foreign
debate, I
policy
sensed,
debate?
from the beginning of this debate, I sensed that there would be an attempt by some of our panelists to go into this very, courteous, polite, unreal, and if I may say so, superficial, we are all together on foreign policy front. The BJP wants the people of India to forget conveniently what it has said in the past, Maroof, both on Pakistan and China. The BJP, and Sheshadri Chari can answer me, they were at the
Pakistan,
forefront of the criticism of the
raise an issue on Pakistan.
soft policy on China when there were transgressions made by Chinese
I want to
troops
raise an
into
issue
Indian
on Pakistan,
territory.
Arnab.
You want to come in on Pakistan? Okay, I have a question on China. I let it pass.
Arnab.
Can I just complete
Yes.
my question on China, please? Because I was just in the middle, half in the middle of that question. My question
You've
was.
done a complete
My
U-turn,
question
Arnab.
was. No, I am exposing every side, Ms. Acharya. That's my job. I'm not going to be soft either to you or Tom, but there are inconsistencies on all sides tonight. Everyone
you can
is
be-
talking through the hat. The BJP knows tonight that when in power, they have gone on record to say there have been no transgressions
Arnab, you go too
on
far.
infiltrations into
go
Indian
too
territory.
far.
One second. No, one second.
It's
No,
not
sir,
a
I'm
question
telling you. So,
No, it's not a question of agreement or
Mr.
disagreement.
Chari.
These are all views. There are
Mr.
a number of foreign policy initiatives of the former government which we
Mr.
agree.
Chari.
There are some number of things where we don't agree.
No, Mr. Chari, let's go specific. Let's go specific.
I think either Mr. Pavan Verma or Mr. Tom Vadakkan can disagree with some of the issues that this present prime government is doing. They can have their own apprehensions on foreign policies. But if we are doing something good, I think they have every right to say that your Prime Minister is doing a wonderful job.
I fully agree.
There is nothing wrong
May
with
I raise a question now, Arnab, now that you have finished? May I raise a question?
Just one example and then I'll pass it on, sir. One example and I'll pass on the baton.
Arnab, you don't let
I
others
remember
speak.
that the person called Rajnath Singh on April 15, 2013 says China regularly
Minister,
sends
you can
in
say
troops
Home
into our
Minister.
territory. Each time
Home
our
Minister.
soldiers have to request them with folded hands to go back. Now, there is a written reply by Manohar Parrikar on the 5th of May 2015 which says, there has been no incident or infiltration at all by any Chinese soldiers into our territory in the last 3 years. Now, who's lying? Manohar Parrikar now or Rajnath Singh then?
I was saying precisely
No,
this.
who's lying, Mr.
wrong.
Chari?
Take statements from the government and the opposition. You will see that over a period of time, the same things have been said on the most critical issues. And you accuse me of
Precisely,
being
but if the
theoretical.
things which are being
Now
said
you
are wrong,
laying-
they can't be
No,
accepted.
No, I'm sorry. It's not about wrong or right. I was trying to make
No,
a
why are
point
you batting
that a
for the BJP
fundamental
now?
framework-
Let him answer.
I'm not batting. I'm extending the point I tried to make, which you interfered with and said it was theoretical. But I mean,
No, my
you are
question.
raising
You are
precisely
saying
that point.
what's the way you are looking, Alka Acharya, you are
Yes,
saying
Arnab
if you look
Goswami.
at the statements, I understand what you are saying. You are saying if you look at the statements, what the BJP is saying is exactly what the Congress used to say. I've heard you made that point. You made it about 14 times so far. I don't disagree with you. I, however, Ms. Acharya, am a little bit more real than you. I don't say that they are saying the same thing. I am saying they are constantly toning down. You think anyone doesn't see what Mr. Chari is doing tonight? He has toned down. Mr. Chari knows he has toned down. He knows his party has toned down.
Arnab, I
And
don't
the
have to
contradiction
tone
between
down.
the comment of
I don't
Manohar
have to tone
Parrikar
down.
now and Rajnath Singh then reflects how he has toned down.
No, it's not the question of toning down. The issue is what was the criticism at that time and what the criticism now. There are certain facts that have come to the notice of the present government. There were these facts were available for the earlier government also. The earlier government was at free will to say what the facts were in front of them.
No,
Why
sir.
that earlier government
Tom
did
Vadakkan,
not
you
put
buy
it
that?
on record, we do not know. For some reasons, good reasons known only to that government and that Prime Minister, they chose to keep quiet on these issues. Now we have come to know the facts, we have put the facts on the table. If more facts come to us, we will not hesitate to tell the Chinese that, look, this is what you have done. This is not done and will
Sir,
not be
you
tolerated.
say there were no infiltrations your entire, you don't know,
Therefore,
Mr.
there is
Chari?
no going back on these words.
Mr. Chari, you've toned down. You didn't even tell me who's
Arnab,
wrong.
where?
Either Manohar Parrikar, now Rajnath Singh, then Maroof. Maroof, isn't it obvious
These
what they
are
are
the
doing? One second,
facts.
Maroof.
These are the facts that were available in the files for
What
the
are
last
the facts?
3 years.
Mr.
This
What
was
are the
government-
facts?
This was
Mr.
not
Chari,
the government.
sir, let somebody else
The
speak.
facts,
Sir,
the
tomorrow
the
you...
facts are available. The earlier government could have put these
Arnab,
facts on the
Arnab,
public
can
domain. I don't
can
know
I
why
please
they
get
did
a
not
minute?
put
Sir,
it.
sir,
This is
if
the
this
question that you
continues
have
to be your
ask
approach,
Manmohan Singh.
then tomorrow you may say that
You
Dawood
have
is
to
not
ask
in
Dr.
Pakistan.
Manmohan Singh. You have to ask Dr. Manmohan Singh why he had all the facts and did not
Arnab,
come out with it.
may I please?
I'm asking you and Maroof wants to ask you something. Maroof.
Mr. Chari, sir, give me a minute. Arnab,
No, sir, but it was
Arnab,
my
I just want to
turn.
make 3 quick points. The first is, Mr. Pavan Verma, sir, Mr. Verma, you did not agree with my assertion that the Chinese leadership went back to China after their visit to India and called up the Indian government
I have
and
my
the
doubts,
authorities at the
Maroof. I
highest
have my
level to
doubts.
confirm that the pullout of the... I'll check, sir, please bear with me. You check with your friends in the PMO. The call came around midnight, 1.5 days after the Chinese president left. The second point I wish to make, Mr. Chari's point that Pakistan's isolation has been achieved just when Obama was in India as this year in January. Just before that, John Kerry comes to Gujarat for the Vibrant India Summit and then
I'm
goes
not
and
saying
hobnobs
it has
with
been
Pakistan's
achieved.
leadership. So,
I'm not
sir,
saying it has been achieved.
Amazing
In foreign policy,
No,
you
what
can
I'm
never
saying
say
is what
this
I
is the
say-
end of
sir,
it. No,
I
I'm saying that
sir,
is one of the attempts.
Sir, Mr.
We are
Chari,
attempting it.
Mr. Chari,
Maroof,
Mr. Chari, please let Maroof speak, sir.
Mr. Chari,
We are
let me
attempting.
complete
Maroof
my
is
point.
substantiating what
Mr.
I'm saying. Please
Arnab,
let him-
what I
please
want
let
to
him
say,
continue, sir.
Arnab, I can give Mr. Chari half a dozen examples that Pakistan's isolation is nowhere near happening. And the third point I wish to make,
Exactly
and
what
I think
Mr. Sood
the
agreed
bureaucrats
with.
and the diplomats on this show will agree with me, that governments, sir, the governments come and go, but the bureaucrats and the diplomats continue in South Block. And it's the same files that are put up to the new set of ministers. And that's why you had Arun Jaitley previously saying that the Henderson Brooks report should be made public. When he becomes the defense minister of India, he says, sorry, for security reasons, I can't make it public. That's why you have this government saying now no intrusions have
both
taken place,
Arnab
when in the
and
past
Maroof
they
are
were saying
saying what I
intrusions
said
take place
earlier. I
every
mean,
other
this is
week.
quite
So
amazing.
what is happening? You are not allowing any intellectual or outside inputs to come into your government, and you are doing exactly what
Exactly. I
generations of
completely
bureaucrats
uphold
and
that.
diplomats do by putting up the same files to you again and again. And that is what is your shortcoming in terms of foreign policy. Mr. Modi's initiatives need to be lauded, but the rest of the team needs to get its act together.
Point is very simple. Alka
Maroof, there
Acharya
cannot be-
repeatedly
there
has been
cannot
saying,
be-
Maroof, that you
there
and I are
cannot be
saying the
any
same thing she
disagreement on
said.
what you are saying.
Absolutely
I am
not,
saying
Ms.
the same
Acharya.
thing. I am not
There is a
saying-
fundamental difference between what...
I'm not competing with this idea. I am
no,
not
you
saying
must
that,
allow-
look, we
you
have
must give a
isolated
chance to
Pakistan
others to
completely
speak.
and now we go to the next story of the chapter. No, we are not saying that. What I am trying to say is these are all attempts. These are all attempts. We have to go ahead and try more. If you have not been able to be successful with
what
the
attempts,
US, you have
sir?
not
You are
been
not
able to block
isolating
the US
Pakistan yourself.
contribution to
You are
Pakistan.
expecting the world
We
to
have not been
isolate
able to
them.
prevent Russia.
You are
We
engaging
have
with
to do more
Pakistan.
homework, and that is exactly what we
you
are
are
doing.
allowing all sorts of activities
Isolation
to
doesn't
take
happen
place.
in its
And then,
completeness.
no, Mr. Chari, you are happening. You are doing
Mr.
precisely
Chari,
what the
other
UPA
panelists
did
can
with
come in.
Pakistan. But then you're talking of global isolation. You have to lead by example, sir. You have to lead by example in dealing with Pakistan. You are doing nothing new. That is my lament against your party.
Maroof, we can discuss.
Pavan Verma
Pakistan
wanted to come in on
independently.
Pakistan.
I can tell you, I may agree with some of your points, I may not agree with some of your points.
Arnab,
But what I am trying to say is, as
But
far
the
as
PM
India's
is in
policy
China.
with China is concerned, today the Prime Minister has raised some of these issues with China, which the earlier government probably did not wish it to improve, wish to take into consideration, but we have not left any stone unturned as far as Indo-Pakistan relations are concerned, and warning China
Oh,
and
yes,
what they
you
are
have.
doing and what they should not be doing.
Can we
Oh, yes,
can
you
we
have.
Exempted.
Okay, Arnab, now let
Therefore,
me come-
it is
let
not.
us ask
it
some-
is
Pavan
not
Verma,
that
oh,
we are
yes,
not
you
doing
have,
it.
sir.
Can we go? Can we go to the Prime
you can
Minister
keep-
in China?
Sir,
You
please
can
No, 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 watch it, watch it.
raising the
Maroof,
Pavan
let me
Verma,
come on
Pavan
Verma.
Verma, Pavan Verma, please on Pakistan. Pavan Verma on Pakistan. Yes, Pavan Verma.
Yes, Pakistan. First of all, I want to say to my good friend
PM is in
Maroof
China.
that to blame only the bureaucracy is not appropriate, because it is after all the political leadership which takes the decision.
No, I'm not
this
doing that,
government
sir.
we expected
No,
on Pakistan
sir,
to
I'm
be
not
different.
doing that. I'm
No,
saying the
let me
bureaucrats put up
finish,
the
sir.
same files
Sir,
again.
let me finish.
I'm
Sir, allow
saying
me,
the
let me finish.
Sir, Mr.
I know,
Verma,
but the
sir,
political
I'm
leadership
saying-
has to
sir,
show.
No, sir, let me complete. No, sir. No.
can't hear what
Yes, I grant you that.
sir,
I'm
let me-
saying the
let me
political
finish and then
leadership
you
is
can
lacking
answer.
imagination. What the bureaucrats are putting up to
hear
them, they are
Okay,
saying the same
okay,
thing.
concede.
I am asking
Agreed,
for
agreed.
greater intellectual pluralism. That is
Agreed, sir,
absent in the
agreed,
BJP
agreed,
leadership. That's the
agreed.
point I'm making.
Sir, I agree. That point is now
you,
set
sir.
aside. I wanted to ask a question to Chari Saab. Chari Saab, when your government came to power, there was genuinely a feeling that now with Pakistan the policy is going to be different. Pakistan has followed a policy of explosive aggression and tactical appeasement. We merely react. We are not proactive, we are reactive, and our foreign policy is ad hoc. Don't you agree with me that as far as Pakistan is concerned, the last 1 year has shown an example, illustrated precisely that kind of approach?
Mr. Pavan Verma, I would probably want to discuss about Pakistan more with you in private and then make an comment on this.
No, why?
But as far as
Discuss
your
on the news,
public
why?
comments are concerned,
No private
I don't
conversation,
think-
sir. You seem a little
I don't
embarrassed
know.
to talk about what your government's approach
No,
is. Why?
No, I will choose. I
sorry,
will choose
this
a private conversation
this is
with
an
you
open
also,
debate.
Arnab.
What do you
But
mean,
I don't
Mr.
want
Chari,
to
that I want
discuss,
to discuss
I'm not
Pakistan in
discussing
private
foreign
with you?
policy issues here
You didn't say
publicly.
so before the elections?
No.
Fair enough.
You can
I'm sorry,
discuss
but please
Pakistan
tell me,
issue
please tell us
independently.
publicly.
You can
He's
issue-
asked you a public question.
You can discuss.
1 second.
You can discuss
Sir,
Pakistan.
you can't
issue
have a public question and a private answer.
Arnab Goswami,
Pavan
you can
Verma,
issue-
what's going on between you and
can
Mr.
have a
Chari?
public debate. You can have a. You can.
Sir,
have
we
a
have only had
you can
public
have a
debate.
willing
This is
to
the
have a
first time a
private
BJP
discussion with
leader
Mr. Chari.
says on the news, I don't want to discuss Pakistan publicly.
As far as Mr. Pavan Verma's assertions are concerned, I have to assure him that as far as Pakistan policy is concerned, we go by what we have said. We are taking the right step. We are recalibrating our policy with Pakistan, and we are not letting Pakistan get away with whatever they want to do or whatever they have been doing. But as far as the finer details of the policies are concerned, I don't think the finer details of the policies can be discussed now. I think these finer details of the policies will emerge as the time passes. But to assure you, as far as our sentiments against Pakistan are concerned, it remains Pakistan is a difficult case. It is nobody's argument that Pakistan case can be discussed and debated and solved once and for all in the next 48 hours.
Sir,
no, nobody has said it.
Sir, we don't
are
even
not saying it.
Sir,
No previous government
actually,
has said it.
Mr.
We are
Chari,
also not saying it. But
Mr. Chari, nobody is
if
talking
there
about
are-
sentiments.
If there are roadblocks in our approach to Pakistan, I think these roadblocks will have to be crossed in a diplomatic manner, in a manner that suits the time that is available
Mr. Chari,
to us.
what a long, Mr. Chari and Mr. Tom Vadakkan wants to raise, what a long-winded and diplomatic reply to a fairly straight question, Mr. Chari. Why do you want to give a private answer on Pakistan to a public
Not
question put to you on the news?
I'm
That
not
itself
trying-
reveals a
I'm
lot.
not
Tom Vadakkan has a
diplomat,
counter
no,
question.
These are candid views.
I know you're not, which is why I'm a bit surprised
Arnab,
tonight.
I have this question. I have this question for Maroof Raza. When I made an opening statement saying that I am worried about our borders, I have a straight question. Maroof, you may answer it or not, but the question is, there was a proposal in 2013 by the UPA government to set up a 90,000 strong army battalion, specifically to prevent intrusion by China. Now, the Defence Ministry has reduced the strength of this battalion by 50%. Are we safe? The defence strategist, Mr. Raza, please tell me, do you think you are comfortable with this? I know I have great pride in the defence forces, but cutting the defence budget and making speeches are two different things. We need to be comfortable. The Indian citizen should be told he's safe.
Mr.
There has been
Vadakkan,
an intrusion when the Chinese premier was here. Are we going to be safe? These are simple questions a common citizen would address. You can answer it or you may leave it.
Mr. Vadakkan, I've got your question. You're talking of the strike corps that was being raised in and around Bengal, a place called Panagarh. It is not a battalion, it's a corps. A battalion is 800 to 1,000 men. A corps is anything from 60 to 90,000. Now, the fact of the matter is that the role for this corps that was initially proposed was of a strike corps, not at a defensive level. There are 3-4 levels of formations that the military uses. One is purely for defending the front line. One is for responding as a counterattack force. And there is a strike force. We've got 3 strike corps already in place. And these will be deployed against the enemy at a point of choosing for a surprise attack. Since we do not have territorial or aggressive intent against China and our desire is only to defend our boundary against the China, the relevance of this strike corps is being questioned once again in the light of the fact that there is a certain amount of money available in national security for defense. Now, either we raise another force level and give it a role which may not ever be implemented, or use the money or use the money to upgrade the basic weapon systems that our troops are fighting, either insurgency in the valley or in the border. So the bottom line is the money was limited, the strike corps did not have a role to play, and therefore, Mr. Vadakkan, I don't think it's...
We can discuss the strike corps in detail later.
Bottom line, it's not such a bad idea.
The bottom line is this. The bottom line is this. The bottom line is this.
Sir,
the bottom line is this. Sheshadri Chari, you know, it is time, Sheshadri Chari, you've done a lot of things which are different. But it's time you stop talking about foreign policy being about visits happening after 17 years to Nepal, after 28 years to Sri Lanka, after 28 years to Australia, after 43 years to Canada. That's not foreign policy. And this is not the foreign policy which you promised. Eventually your foreign policy will be determined by whether you can stand up to China and to Pakistan and how you deal there. And one point to Alka Acharya, please. Alka Acharya, you make the point that you are saying what Maroof and I do. Absolutely not, and let me tell you why. Alka Acharya agrees, has no problems with the fact that the BJP and the Congress are sounding the same. We do. We find a fundamental fault in the fact that you are sounding like the Congress tonight. And that's the point of difference.
Don't merge our parties.
I thank you all. I thank you all for joining me on debate number 1 on the Newshour tonight. Thank you.